If you love stories of revenge, resilience, and unexpected romance, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button now because Lotus Tale Studios brings you the most captivating tales you won't want to miss. Trust me, you'll want to see how this story ends. On the day of my betrothal, Chen Wei didn't show up. Outside, the daylight was bright and brilliant. Mai Ling, the little maid in my courtyard, had run back and forth 7 or 8 times, each time wearing the same anxious and disappointed expression. "Miss, he still hasn't come." I sat upright before the vanity mirror, the heavy phoenix hairpin on my head making my neck ache. The wedding dress I wore had been commissioned from the most famous embroiderer in the capital over 3 months. Gold and silver threads, layer upon layer, luxurious yet cumbersome. Father and mother sat in the main hall, the joy on their faces long replaced by anxiety and embarrassment. The whispers of the guests throughout the hall were like countless tiny needles, piercing my family's dignity and my heart alike. Chen Wei and I had known each other since childhood. We were childhood sweethearts. He was the only son of the current Prime Minister, brilliantly talented and extraordinarily handsome, the dream of countless noble ladies in the capital. And I was the legitimate eldest daughter of the minister's household, Lin Yu. The marriage between our two families was a golden match that everyone in the capital envied. I once thought we were destined for each other, until half a month ago when my half-sister, Lin Xiao, who had been raised in the countryside since birth and was only recently brought back to the manor, took a fancy to an Eastern Sea pearl hairpin in my jewelry box. That pearl hairpin was a token of love Chen Wei had given me, radiant and dazzling, worth a fortune. More importantly, it was a testament to the bond between him and me. Lin Xiao cried and threw a tantrum, insisting on having it no matter what. "Sister has so many things. Why can't you just let me have one? I grew up in the countryside since I was little and never saw anything nice. Sister, please just take pity on me." Her crying was soft and aggrieved, like a little white flower swaying in the wind and rain, instantly arousing the protective instinct of my brother, Lin Hao, who had always doted on me. It's just a pearl hairpin. Just let your sister have it. She just came back to the manor and we should all show her more love," my brother said to me with a frown, his tone full of matter-of-factness. I was trembling with anger at the time. "Brother, this isn't just an ordinary pearl hairpin. This is a token of love Chen Wei gave me. That's exactly why you should be more generous. Your love with young Master Chen is as strong as gold. Surely you won't grow distant over a hairpin. Xiao is different. She just arrived and needs some nice things to her name so people won't look down on her." Looking at my brother's righteous and selfless face, I only felt it was absurd and chilling. In the end, I still didn't give in. I held on to my bottom line and also preserved my dignity and Chen Wei's. Lin Xiao cried the entire night over this, and the next day, her eyes were swollen like walnuts, a pitiful sight. My brother comforted her for a long time, and when he looked at me, there was a hint of reproach in his eyes. I thought the matter had passed just like that. I never expected that Chen Wei would stand me up in this way on such an important day as our betrothal. "Master, madam." The butler came scrambling in, his face covered in sweat. "The Chen household, someone from the Chen household is here." All the guests in the hall perked up, and father and mother abruptly rose to their feet. But the one who came in was just a decently dressed servant boy. That servant was Chen Wei's personal attendant, a young man named Xiao Feng. Usually, whenever he saw me, he would respectfully greet me as young madam. But today, he held his head high with a hint of arrogance on his face, not even bothering to bow. He cleared his throat and spoke in a volume that was neither too loud nor too soft, yet enough for everyone present to hear clearly. "My young master has spoken. Miss Lin's temper is too fierce. Over a mere pearl hairpin, she made Miss Xiao cry all night, truly unbecoming of a noble lady. My young master has said, whenever Miss Lin comes to her senses and personally apologizes to Miss Xiao, and Miss Xiao stops crying, only then will he come to propose." With a boom, my mind exploded. The whole hall of guests instantly erupted in an uproar. This was no longer just a slap in the face. This was tearing off the Lin family's dignity, throwing it on the ground and stomping on it viciously. My father was shaking all over with rage, pointing at the servant, his lips trembling, unable to utter a word. Mother's face instantly turned deathly pale, and she nearly fainted. A maid rushed to support her, while another quickly brought her smelling salts. Through the swaying bead curtain, I saw in the corner my dear elder brother, Lin Hao, speaking with furrowed brows to our concubine-born sister, Lin Xiao, beside him. Xiao is just a bit delicate and Wei is making too big a deal out of nothing. But you, don't worry. Proposing a bit later will just let her cool off. It's actually a good thing. His voice was kept very low, but I heard every word clearly. A good thing. I swallowed my grievances for the bigger picture, yet I became the one with too much temper. Lin Xiao made unreasonable trouble, yet became the delicate, pitiful one. Chen Wei broke off the betrothal to humiliate me, yet it became him standing up for her. My heart in that moment turned cold as ice. I slowly rose from before the mirror, the wedding dress on me heavy like a shackle. Step by step, I walked out of my chamber, walked to the center of the main hall. Everyone's eyes were focused on me. Some with sympathy, some with pity, but more with the perverse pleasure of watching a good show. The noble ladies who had once envied my engagement now looked at me with barely concealed satisfaction. This was the fate of the proud falling from grace, and they were savoring every moment of it. I didn't look at Chen Wei's servant, nor did I look at my brother, whose favoritism had bent completely toward someone else. I walked straight to my father, and facing his ashen face, slowly knelt down. Father. My voice was very calm, so calm that even I found it terrifying. This marriage with the Chen family, we're not going through with it. Father stared at me in shock, his mouth opening and closing but no words coming out. Mother gasped, reaching out a trembling hand toward me. What are you saying? Don't be rash. You're just upset right now. I didn't pause, taking out a small exquisite betrothal card from my bosom. The card was embroidered with auspicious clouds and gold thread, its corners slightly curled, clearly it had been caressed by its owner for a long time. This was sent by someone from the Northern Garrison Prince's residence 3 days ago. The Northern Garrison Prince, Zhao Yang, the current emperor's own brother, commanding 300,000 troops in the northern frontier. His power overshadowed the entire court. But he was violent in temperament, decisive in killing, and still unmarried at nearly 30. Rumor had it that the ominous aura around him was too heavy, he was destined to doom any wife. Noble ladies in the capital all avoided him like the plague. Some said his manor was cursed, that flowers wouldn't bloom and birds wouldn't sing within its walls. Others whispered that he had killed his previous 2 betrothed before they even made it to the wedding day, though no one could verify if this was true or merely vicious gossip. Father had refused on the spot when the proposal came. He said my daughter was raised with tender care, how could she marry such a god of death? I'll not send my precious child to an early grave just to curry favor with the prince. But I had secretly kept that betrothal card, something in my heart telling me to hold on to it. Now I understood why. I held that betrothal card high, each word clear. 3 days ago, the Northern Garrison Prince's residence sent someone with a betrothal card. Father, this marriage, your daughter accepts. The entire hall fell deathly silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone looked at me as if I were a madwoman. From the wife of the capital's foremost scholar and future prime minister to marrying a notorious living king of hell who could doom his wife at any moment, this was practically falling from the clouds straight into a mud pit. That servant boy from the Chen residence was also stunned, the arrogance on his face turning to shock, then to something that looked almost like fear. He probably realized he had pushed the minister's daughter too far, and now there would be consequences his young master hadn't anticipated. My dear brother, Lin Hao, even rushed over, grabbing my arm in one motion and shouted angrily. Lin Yu, have you gone mad? Just to spite Wei, you're throwing away your own lifelong happiness. Think about what you're doing. That man is a monster. He'll destroy you. I coldly shook off his hand with a force that surprised even me. Throwing a tantrum, brother? Which eye of yours saw me throwing a tantrum? I looked at him and said, enunciating each word with crystal clarity. Chen Wei could humiliate me and the Lin family like this on my betrothal day over a pearl hairpin. Do you think I should still marry such a man? If he can trample on my face for Lin Xiao today, he could take my life for another woman tomorrow. I, Lin Yu, Would rather never marry in this lifetime than suffer such utter humiliation. My voice echoed through the main hall, resounding and forceful. Father looked at my resolute eyes, then glanced at the Chen family's betrothal gift on the ground that represented endless humiliation. The silk, the jewelry, the promise of a brilliant future, all of it now tainted with the stench of disrespect. His originally wavering gaze instantly became incomparably firm. Something in him seemed to straighten, as if remembering he was not just a careful politician, but also a father with a daughter to protect. He slammed the table hard, and the teacups jumped, some spilling their contents. The sound rang out like a war drum. Get out. Go back and tell Chen Wei that our Lin family doesn't have such fortune and cannot aspire to your Prime Minister's residence. From this day forward, the marriage agreement between our Lin family and the Chen family is annulled. All ties are severed. We want nothing from you. Take your gifts and your contempt and leave my house. The servant boy, Xiao Feng, stumbled backward, his face pale. He had come here expecting tears and apologies, expected the Lin family to grovel and beg. Instead, he was being thrown out like a dog. Master Lin, please reconsider. The Prime Minister will not be pleased. The Prime Minister, Father roared, can go hang for all I care. Get out of my sight before I have you thrown out bodily. Then, with trembling hands but determined movements, he took the betrothal card from the prince's residence from my hands. He stared at it for a long moment, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear, yes, but also a strange kind of pride. Good, good. As expected of a daughter of our Lin family. You have more spine than I gave you credit for. This marriage, butler, prepare the carriage. We shall personally go to the prince's residence to deliver our reply today. We will not keep His Highness waiting. At this moment, that block of ice at the bottom of my heart finally cracked open, and warmth flooded in. My father was standing by me. Whatever came next, at least I had this moment. The guests began to file out, some shaking their heads in pity, others eager to spread this delicious gossip. I could already hear their whispers. Did you see? The Lin girl has gone completely mad. She'll regret this. Mark my words, within a month she'll be dead, and the Lin family will fall from grace. Such foolishness. But there were a very few, who looked at me with something like admiration. One elderly lady, a distant aunt on my mother's side, paused as she passed me and squeezed my hand. You're braver than I ever was, girl. May the heavens protect you. Then she was gone, and I was left standing in the wreckage of what should have been my engagement celebration. The news of my marriage into the prince's residence spread throughout the entire capital within a single day, as if it had grown wings. By nightfall, every tea house, every brothel, every marketplace was buzzing with the tale. Everyone said I had gone mad, passing up the gentle and refined Chen Wei, only to jump into the fire pit that was the prince. Street storytellers already had new material, spinning elaborate tales of my supposed insanity. My closest friend, Su Wan, rushed to our manor the moment she heard. She grabbed my hand, so anxious her eyes turned red and her voice came out in gasps. Have you gone mad from anger? What kind of person is the prince? I heard even the birds kept in his manor couldn't survive 3 days. The gardeners plant flowers and they wither within a week. If you marry him, what will you do? They say he's killed 2 women already. They say he bathes in blood. They say. I patted her hand, signaling her to relax, and led her to sit down. Mai Ling brought us tea, her own eyes red from crying. Rather than marry a man who doesn't have me in his heart and could stab me in the back for someone else at any moment, I'd rather gamble on an unknown future. At least the prince, Zhao Yang, gave me the most basic respect. He didn't send some servant boy to humiliate me, but personally prepared generous gifts and solemnly presented the betrothal card. In this world, sincerity matters far more than empty titles. But you, Su Wan clutched my hand tighter. What if the rumors are true? What if he really is a monster? I'd rather you ran away, left the capital entirely, than marry him. I'll come with you. We could go to Jiangnan, start over. No one would find us. I smiled at her sweetness, at her loyalty. You would give up your own family for me. She nodded fiercely. In a heartbeat. But we both knew it was an impossible dream. Running away would shame both our families and would be hunted down within days. Chen Wei soon got the news. He rushed to our manor like a madman, arriving just past midnight, pounding on our gates like he wanted to break them down. The night watchman nearly called the guards. His face no longer showed his usual composure and calm, only shock and disbelief. When the servants finally let him into the courtyard, not into the house proper but just the outer courtyard, I watched from my window as he paced back and forth like a caged animal. I finally went out to face him, wrapped in a thick cloak against the autumn chill. How can you be so rash? Do you know what kind of man that Zhao Yang is? Marrying him is no different from ruining your own future. You'll die, you. Do you understand? You'll die. He grabbed my shoulders, shaking me hard as if trying to shake me awake, his fingers digging into my flesh even through the thick fabric. I looked at him coldly, feeling the man before me was terrifyingly unfamiliar. This wasn't the boy who had given me wildflowers when we were children, who had promised to always protect me, who had said I was the only woman he'd ever love. That boy was gone, if he had ever truly existed at all. Young Master Chen, what does how I act have to do with you? My voice was ice. He froze, seemingly not expecting me to address him so distantly, so formally, as if he were a stranger. I know you're still angry. It's my fault. I shouldn't have listened to Hao's words and used that method to pressure you. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I just wanted you to apologize to Qiao and we could be like before. Wouldn't that be nice? Everything could go back to normal. We could still be happy. I realize now how foolish I was. I was so angry at his words that I almost laughed. The audacity of this man, to stand here and act like victim and savior all at once. Apologize. What did I do wrong? Chen Wei, ask yourself, if I had taken a fancy to Lin Qiao's love token, crying and throwing a tantrum until I got it, what would you do? Would you have humiliated her the way you humiliated me today? Would you have sent a servant to her family's home to make demands? He was speechless, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. You wouldn't do anything because I would never do such a thing. The upbringing I received since childhood doesn't allow me to covet other people's belongings, let alone my sister's love token. But more than that, Chen Wei, I would never do such a thing because I actually loved you. I had standards. I had dignity. Things you apparently think are negotiable. I shook off his hand and stepped back, putting distance between us. The night air was cold and I could see my breath, but I felt oddly warm, oddly powerful. You only see Lin Qiao's tears, but you can't see my grievances. You only think she's weak and pitiable, yet you forget that I'm also a fiancé who needs to be cherished. In your heart, my dignity as your fiancé isn't as important as those few drops of tears she shed. You weighed me against her and found me wanting. Chen Wei, you're not stupid. You're just rotten. Rotten at the core, where it matters. Now you think I've ruined your future, but in my view, cutting my losses in time is the most correct decision I've ever made in my life. Thank you, actually, for showing me who you really are before I was legally bound to you. Thank you for freeing me. After saying that, I stopped looking at his deathly pale face, turned around, and went back into the mansion, ordering the servants to shut the gates tightly and bar them. I heard him pounding on them for a while, shouting my name, before eventually, silence fell. I heard he stood outside the gate all night, and when dawn came, he was still there, looking like death itself. The servants whispered about it in the morning. Some pitied him. Some thought him pathetic. I felt nothing at all. Lin Qiao finally became scared too. The next afternoon she ran into my courtyard, crying like a pear blossom bathed in rain, her makeup carefully applied to look naturally distraught. She had always been good at this, at performing vulnerability. Sister, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I didn't know things would turn out like this. I swear I had no idea Chen Wei would do something so extreme. I don't want that pearl hairpin anymore. Can you take it back? Please. Don't marry the prince. Make up with Brother Wei. He loves you. I know he does. This can all be fixed. She reached for my hands but I pulled them away. I sat by the window leisurely sipping my tea, not even bothering to lift my eyelids to look at her properly. Don't you think it's too late to say all this now, sister?" The word sister dripped with sarcasm. "I really didn't mean to. Whether you meant to or not, you know the truth in your heart." I set down my teacup with a deliberate clink and looked at her coldly, really looked at her, and watched the mask slip just a little around her eyes. "Did you think I didn't know those little schemes of yours? Growing up in the countryside, then one day returning to the manor, seeing everything I have, you're jealous. You're unwilling to accept it. You want to steal what's mine. It's written all over you, in every calculated tear, every trembling lip. First a pearl hairpin, then my brother, and finally my fiancé. Tell me, what's next? My parents' affection? My position in society? My very identity?" Lin Xiao's face instantly drained of all color, the carefully maintained expression of innocent distress cracking like a porcelain vase. For just a moment, I saw naked hatred flash in her eyes before she covered it up again. "Sister, how can you say such things? I only wanted, you wanted what was mine." I cut her off sharply. "And now you'll live with the consequences. Let me tell you, Lin Xiao, I used to give in to you because I pitied you, because of that sliver of blood relation, because I was raised to be kind and generous and consider others' feelings before my own. But now you've crossed my bottom line, so don't blame me for showing no mercy. From today on, you'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, I don't know if a mere concubine's daughter like you can handle the wrath of the princess of the northern garrison." My voice was soft, yet like a cold blade, it cut through all her pretenses. She stumbled back several steps, looking at me in terror as if seeing a stranger, and perhaps she was. Perhaps I was stranger to myself. Yes, in everyone's eyes, I, Lin Yu, should be that gentle, magnanimous, big-picture-minded legitimate daughter. They got used to my yielding and assumed I had no temper, no bottom line. They all forgot, even a cornered rabbit will bite. And I was done being anyone's prey. My wedding date with the prince was set quickly. Perhaps the emperor also intended to appease this brother of his who commanded great armies and whose loyalty was worth more than gold. With a wave of his hand, he decreed that I should be married off to the prince's manor in grand splendor, with the ceremony befitting a princess and a dowry stretching 10 miles. The emperor's generosity was strategic, showing the prince that his future wife came with imperial blessing and favor. The palace provided half the dowry themselves, an unprecedented honor that had the gossips chattering even more. On the day of my wedding, the entire capital turned out, leaving the streets empty of normal traffic. I sat in the swaying bridal sedan, listening to the deafening drums and gongs outside and the chatter of the common folk. "Look at that red," they were saying. "Like blood. An omen, surely. That poor girl, marrying a demon." Yet my heart was surprisingly calm. No fear of the future, no longing for the past. I only knew that from this day forward, my life would be in my own hands. The bridal sedan was ornate, covered in red silk and golden phoenixes, carried by 16 strong men. Inside, I was surrounded by the scent of sandalwood incense, meant to ward off evil spirits. I wondered if they thought it would protect me from my future husband. The thought almost made me laugh. The bridal sedan stopped before the gates of the prince's manor. According to custom, the groom was to come kick open the sedan door himself. I waited for a moment, hearing the crowd outside go quiet with anticipation or dread. Then the sedan curtain was suddenly thrown open from outside. Blinding sunlight flooded in, and I instinctively squinted. Against the light, I saw a tall imposing figure. He wore a black wedding robe trimmed with gold, with sword-like brows and starry eyes, a high-bridged nose and thin lips. His entire being exuded an icy aura that warned strangers to keep their distance. Even the bright red wedding garments couldn't suppress the deadly aura forged from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. This was the northern garrison prince, Zhao Yang. He didn't smile, only looked down at me from above, his gaze sharp as an eagle's, as if he wanted to see right through me, to assess whether I was brave or simply foolish. "Walk yourself, or shall this prince carry you?" His voice was low and husky, carrying a commanding tone that brooked no argument. It was the voice of a man accustomed to being obeyed without question. I was stunned for a moment, then lifted my skirt and stepped out of the bridal sedan myself, refusing to show any weakness or hesitation. He seemed quite pleased with my sensibility, the corner of his lips curving up almost imperceptibly, a ghost of approval. Then he turned and left, taking such large strides without any intention of waiting for me, his black robes billowing behind him like wings. I lifted my elaborate skirts, practically having to jog to keep up with his pace, my heavy headdress threatening to slip with each quick step. Stepping over the fire basin, bowing to heaven and earth, entering the bridal chamber, everything went by so fast as a dream. The rituals were performed with efficient precision, the prince clearly eager to have the ceremony done with. By the time I finally sat down on the wedding bed covered with peanuts and dates, symbols of fertility and sweet life, Zhao Yang had already disappeared like smoke. The wedding maid smiled and said, "His Highness has gone to the front courtyard to entertain guests. Please wait at ease, Your Highness." Her voice was kind but her eyes were cautious, watching me as if I might break down or run away screaming. I nodded, letting them remove the heavy phoenix crown from my head. The relief was immediate, my neck aching from hours of supporting its weight. Sitting alone in the empty bridal chamber, I belatedly felt a twinge of nervousness. There were too many rumors about Zhao Yang. They said he was brutal by nature, having once slain 3,000 enemies in a single day on the battlefield, blood flowing like rivers, his armor so drenched in gore that it took days to clean. They said his residence was heavy with ominous energy, and the two beauties the emperor had previously bestowed upon him had both died sudden, mysterious deaths. One supposedly threw herself into a well in terror after seeing his true face. Another simply never woke up one morning, found cold in her bed with a look of horror frozen on her features. They said he had no interest in women, perhaps harboring some unspeakable secret. Some whispered he preferred the company of men, others that he was incapable of love entirely, his heart turned to stone by years of war. I didn't know which were true and which were false. I only knew that the rest of my life was about to be bound to this man. The night deepened and the clamor from the front courtyard gradually subsided. I heard voices, laughter, the sounds of men drinking and being merry. Then slowly, the sounds faded. I heard a set of steady footsteps approaching from afar, heavy boots on stone, stopping at my door. The door was pushed open and Zhao Yang walked in, reeking of alcohol, the smell strong and sharp in the enclosed space. He took off the elaborate wedding robe from the outside, wearing only a dark inner garment, the collar slightly open, revealing his firm chest marked with old scars. Under the candlelight, his features appeared even more deep and cold, carved from granite. He walked straight to the table, poured a cup of cold tea, and downed it in one gulp, his throat working. Then turned around and looked at me with those jet-black eyes that seemed to see into my soul. "Your name is Lin Yu." "Yes." "Do you know why this prince married you?" I shook my head, my heart beating faster despite my determination to stay calm. He let out a scoff, walked to the bedside, bent down, and propped his hands on either side of me, trapping me beneath his shadow. The strong scent of alcohol and male pheromones instantly enveloped me, overwhelming my senses. "Because you've got guts." His voice was pressed very low, carrying a hint of dangerous amusement. "You turned down the capital's top scholar and dared to accept this prince's marriage proposal instead. Everyone else fears me, avoids me, treats me like a monster. But you walked straight into the monster's den with your head held high. This prince just wants to see how much courage the pampered young lady raised by the minister's manor actually has. How long before you start screaming or crying or begging to be released?" His face was so close to mine, close enough that I could clearly see the tiny me reflected in his deep eyes, see the flecks of gold in his dark irises. I didn't flinch, meeting his gaze, and said calmly, "Your Highness jests. I'm not exceptionally courageous. I just don't want to be treated as a soft persimmon that anyone can squeeze at will. Rather than marry a man who doesn't respect me, who would humiliate me publicly and value me less than another woman's tears, I'd rather choose one who at least gave me dignity. Who at least treated me like a person deserving of basic respect." Zhao Yang raised his eyebrows, seemingly somewhat surprised by my answer, not having expected such directness. He was silent for a moment, straightened up, and sat on the other side of the bed, the mattress dipping with his weight. "You're quite honest. More honest than most people I meet, who spend all their time lying and flattering." He picked up the wedding wine from the table, 2 cups of clear liquid that caught the candlelight. "Drink it." I took the cup and drank it all in one gulp, refusing to show any hesitation. The spicy liquor slid down my throat, burning my stomach with a wave of heat that made my eyes water. He looked at me and suddenly said, "Rest assured, this prince has no interest in you. We're husband and wife in name only. Just be a proper princess, manage the household, appear at official functions, and this prince will guarantee you a lifetime of glory. But if you dare to have any thoughts you shouldn't have, if you betray me or scheme against me." He didn't finish his words, but the warning in his eyes was self-evident, cold and sharp as a blade. I nodded. "Rest assured, Your Highness, I understand." "Good that you understand." He stood up and walked straight to the couch nearby, a daybed used for afternoon rest. "You sleep on the bed, I'll sleep here. We stay out of each other's way." After saying that, he lay down fully clothed and closed his eyes, dismissing me completely. In the bridal chamber, the dragon and phoenix candles burned quietly, wax tears dripping down one by one, pooling at the base. I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the tall back of the man lying on the couch, my heart a jumble of emotions. This was my wedding night. No brutality as I had imagined, no terror as the rumors said, only a cold husband who had agreed to stay out of each other's way. Perhaps that's for the best. I blew out the candle and lay down. Such days of treating each other with respectful distance might be the best ending for me. At least I wasn't dead. At least I had my dignity. That was more than many women could say. Early the next morning, I went to pay respects to the Empress Dowager and the Emperor in the palace as custom required for a new bride of the royal family. Zhao Yang accompanied me, the first time I'd seen him in daylight. He changed into a dark python robe, making him look even more imposing and stern, every inch the warrior prince. Along the way, we had no communication whatsoever. He walked ahead, I followed 3 steps behind as custom dictated. People we passed stared openly, whispering behind their hands. When we arrived at the palace, the Empress Dowager held my hand, looking me up and down with sharp eyes that missed nothing, saying some polite words of concern that didn't quite reach her eyes. But the probing and scrutiny in her eyes couldn't be hidden, no matter how she tried. She was assessing me, trying to determine what kind of woman had dared to marry her son, whether I was brave or mad or simply desperate. After you marry Yang, you'll have to be more tolerant. This child of mine grew up in military camps since he was young, has a cold temperament, and doesn't know how to be tender with people. He's had a hard life, harder than most, and it's made him difficult. You must be patient with him. I answered obediently, this daughter-in-law understands. The prince's heart is devoted to our nation. He's a pillar of the country, protecting us all from the northern barbarians. It's this daughter-in-law's blessing to marry the prince. My words were watertight, carefully neutral, elevating myself while also giving proper respect. The Empress Dowager nodded with satisfaction, though I saw the faintest flicker of something else in her eyes. Relief, perhaps, that I seemed sensible. Or maybe pity. After leaving the palace, Zhao Yang still walked ahead without saying a word. I watched his back and suddenly spoke up. "Your Highness." His footsteps paused and he turned to look at me, eyebrows raised in question. "Thank you for accompanying me today, Your Highness." He gave an expressionless hum and turned to continue walking, but I thought I saw the tiniest relaxation in his shoulders. Back at the prince's mansion, the steward presented the household account books and keys, heavy ledgers, and a large ring of iron keys. "Princess, these are the household affairs. The prince has ordered that from now on, you shall be in charge of everything. All decisions regarding the household, the servants, the expenses, all of it falls to you now." I looked at Zhao Yang with some surprise. He didn't even glance at me, only said to the steward in that commanding voice, "From now on, all matters in the mansion shall follow the princess's orders. Her words are my words. If she tells you to do something, it's as if I told you myself." After saying that, he turned and went to his study and never came out again, shutting the door firmly behind him. I held that heavy pile of account books, feeling somewhat bitter inside. Is he completely treating me as just a housekeeper now? Just a manager for his household while he focuses on important things like war? But this is fine too. Having something to do is better than sitting idle with wandering thoughts, going mad in this huge manor with nothing but servants and memories of a wedding night that wasn't. I spent 3 days getting a thorough understanding of all the personnel and accounts in the prince's manor, working late into the night by candlelight. I didn't think much of it before looking, but once I did, I got quite a shock. This prince's manor was practically an empty shell. Zhao Yang was away at war year-round, and although the emperor's rewards were generous, he used most of them to supplement the military pay for his soldiers. The manor's daily expenses were enormous: many servants, guests coming and going, officials who needed to be entertained, ceremonies that required funding, money needed everywhere. The silver in the accounts was nearly depleted. More importantly, I discovered that the steward in charge of procurement had tampered with many accounts, inflating prices and pocketing the difference. 10 taels here, 50 there, over months and years it added up to a fortune. Such a grand manor, hollowed out by a few cunning servants while the prince was away fighting for the country. I had a plan in mind. The next day, I had the butler summon all the stewards in the manor to the front hall. I sat in the main seat, the position of power, and tossed an account book onto the table with just the right amount of force. The sound echoed in the quiet hall. I've just taken over the manor and am not yet familiar with many things. I'd like to ask all the stewards to explain the rules of this household to me. My voice was sweet, almost innocent. Everyone below exchanged glances, unsure what I was up to. That steward in charge of procurement, relying on his seniority in the manor, was the first to step forward with a fake smile plastered on his face, confident in his position. He said, "Princess, the rules of this manor were all set back in the old prince's time. You're the mistress. Whatever you say, we servants will just follow. Is that so?" I picked up that account book and flipped to a page I had marked. "Steward Liu, then explain this to me. Why is it that the 50 bolts of cloud brocade purchased for the manor last month, when the market price is clearly 20 taels per bolt, are recorded as 40 taels in the accounts? Whose pocket did that extra 1,000 taels go into?" Steward Liu's face went pale instantly, all blood draining away. "Princess, could there be some misunderstanding here? Perhaps the merchant charged more for premium quality. Or perhaps I made an error in recording." "A misunderstanding?" I sneered. "It's written in black and white in the account books and you're telling me it's a misunderstanding." I also discovered that not only the silk fabric, but also the rice, the charcoal, and even the fodder in the stables are all priced at least 30% higher than the market price. I've had my people check with merchants all over the capital. I know exactly what everything should cost. "Steward Liu, do you think I'm a fool, or do you think the prince is a fool?" Below, it instantly became dead silent, everyone looking at me in terror. They probably never expected that I, this delicate-looking young miss from the minister's manor, would actually be so proficient with accounts. But my father is the Minister of Revenue. I grew up immersed in this, learning at his knee, and I'm most sensitive to these numbers. I know when they don't add up. "Guards!" I slammed the table hard and 2 large men stepped forward from the shadows. "Drag this backstabbing, treacherous servant away. Give him 50 strokes of the rod, then throw him out of the prince's manor. As for the silver he embezzled, send people to raid his home and recover every last cent for me. Also recover it from his family if needed. They benefited from his theft. Let them pay it back." Immediately, 2 tall guards stepped forward and dragged away Steward Liu, who was crying and begging for mercy. "Princess, please. I have a wife and children. Have mercy." "Your mercy died when you stole from a man fighting to protect this nation," I said coldly. "Be grateful I'm not having you executed." The remaining stewards were all silent as cicadas in winter, kneeling on the ground, trembling, wondering if their own sins would be discovered next. I swept my gaze over them, my voice cold and sharp. "I don't care what you were like before. From today on in this prince's manor, I have the final say. If anyone dares to have crooked thoughts again, Steward Liu is your fate. Also, starting next month, the monthly wages for all servants in the manor will be raised by 20%. As long as you serve loyally, I will never treat you unfairly. Hit with a stick, then give a sweet date. I still know a thing or two about the art of managing subordinates. Father taught me that loyalty is bought with fairness, not fear alone." Sure enough, the moment the people below heard about the wage increase, the terror on their faces immediately turned into pleasant surprise, and they all kowtowed to express their gratitude. "Princess is merciful. Princess is wise. We will serve you faithfully." I dealt with the parasites in the manor swiftly and decisively, and the entire Prince's manor's atmosphere was refreshed. The servants walked straighter, worked harder, knowing they had a mistress who would reward good service and punish betrayal. And all of this, Zhao Yang seemed completely unaware of. He still left early and returned late every day, either going to the military camp to train his soldiers or staying in his study handling correspondence and military reports. We couldn't even exchange more than a few words a day. Until one night, for the first time ever, he didn't go to sleep on the couch, but instead sat down in front of my vanity mirror. I was removing my makeup when I suddenly saw his cold, stern face appear in the bronze mirror, giving me a fright. My hand jerked and I nearly knocked over the face powder. "Your Highness." He didn't speak, just picked up a hairpin from my vanity. It was a very ordinary silver hairpin, the most inconspicuous piece of jewelry from my dowry. "You sure know how to live frugally." He suddenly spoke, his voice revealing neither joy nor anger. My heart tightened, thinking he was blaming me for punishing Steward Lu, thinking perhaps the man had been his spy or had connections. "Your Highness, the manor's finances are tight." I was just. "This prince doesn't blame you." He cut me off, setting down the silver hairpin gently. "You did well." I was stunned. This was the first time he praised me. Steward Lu was sent by the palace to keep an eye on me, to report my movements to certain ministers who don't trust me. This prince had long wanted to deal with him, but never found the right timing. Getting rid of a palace spy is delicate work. He looked at my reflection in the mirror, his gaze somewhat complicated. "You actually helped this prince resolve a problem. And you did it in a way that can't blow back on me. Clever." Only then did I understand he knew everything. It wasn't that he didn't care. He was just waiting for an opportunity, or rather waiting for someone who could act on his behalf. Someone the palace wouldn't suspect of being his puppet. And I happened to be that person. "Handle the manor's affairs as you see fit. If you need money, just tell the butler. I've been setting aside some silver from the military budget. This prince can still afford to support a household." After saying that, he stood up, preparing to sleep on the couch again. Looking at his tall back, I blurted out as if possessed. "Your Highness, the weather's getting colder. Sleeping on the couch makes it easy to catch a cold." His footsteps halted. He turned back and gave me a deep look. In that gaze, something seemed to be stirring, some emotion I couldn't quite name. After a long moment, he let out a low sound, walked to the bed and lay down on the outer side next to me. Between us, there was an invisible boundary line, like a wall, but I knew that boundary seemed to have narrowed a little. Days went by in this lukewarm calm. I managed the internal affairs of the prince's residence, keeping everything inside and out in perfect order. The accounts balanced, the servants were content, the manor ran smoothly. Zhao Yang was busy with his military duties. We were like two roommates living under the same roof, polite, distant, yet getting along peacefully. Occasionally, when he came back late at night, he would bring me some little trinkets. Sometimes it was honey melons from the western regions, sweet and fragrant. Sometimes wolf tooth ornaments unique to the northern frontier, carved with intricate patterns. Sometimes rare books or delicate jade pieces. He never said anything, just silently placed them on my vanity table. I didn't ask either, just silently accepted them. The next day, a peculiar unspoken understanding had formed between us, until my brother Lin Hao's arrival broke this tranquility. He came to the prince's residence to see me, ostensibly for siblings to catch up, bringing gifts and wearing his most charming smile. But in reality, the moment he opened his mouth, it was all about Chen Wei and Lin Qiao. Wei really regrets it now. He's completely haggard, can't eat or drink. He's losing weight rapidly. Just forgive him. Give him another chance. He made a mistake but he's learned from it. My hand paused while pouring him tea, and the scalding tea splashed onto the back of my hand, leaving a red mark. I set down the teapot and slowly wiped it with a handkerchief, not saying a word, watching the red mark bloom on my skin. And Qiao, she knows she was wrong too. She's just a young girl. What bad intentions could she possibly have? She's crying every day. Mother's worried sick. Don't hold it against her. You two sisters should still get along harmoniously. I looked up at this man I had called brother for over a decade, feeling utterly like a stranger, like I was looking at someone I'd never met. Brother, you came today just to plead their case. I just don't want you to keep living in resentment. Resentment ruins a person. Look at yourself now, married into this prince's manor, stuck with such a cold man. Are you even happy? Do you smile anymore? Do you laugh? Lin Hao had an expression of "I'm doing this all for your own good," as if he were the wise elder dispensing guidance to a foolish child. Whether I'm happy or not, brother needn't trouble himself. I picked up the teacup and handed it to him, the gesture pointed. Brother should worry more about Lin Xiao instead. She's the good sister in your heart who needs protecting. Clearly she's the one you actually care about. My tone was barbed and Lin Hao's expression immediately turned somewhat unpleasant, his jaw tightening. Lin Yu, how did you become like this? You weren't like this before. You used to be so kind, so understanding. Before? I sneered. The me from before was forced by all of you to marry the prince. The me now is doing just fine. At least I don't have to read anyone's moods anymore, don't have to swallow my pride anymore, don't have to pretend I don't see blatant favoritism and injustice. If brother has nothing else to discuss, please leave. The manor is busy. I have no time to listen to you plead for others here. I issued an order to see him out, gesturing to a servant. Lin Hao flung his sleeves in anger and left in a huff, not even saying goodbye. I watched his retreating figure, feeling a wave of exhaustion in my heart. This is my family. When I was in trouble, when I was being humiliated, they never offered a single word of comfort. Now that I've become the princess, they all come running one by one to accuse me of changing. How laughable. In the evening, when Zhao Yang returned and saw my low spirits, he rarely asked, "What's wrong?" Nothing. I shook my head, not wanting to tell him about those troubling matters. He didn't press further either, just placed an oil paper package on the table as he passed by me. Osmanthus cakes from the new shop at the street corner. Try some. The owner is from the south. They're supposed to be very authentic. I opened the oil paper package. Inside were several delicate Osmanthus cakes, still warm, the sweet fragrance filling the room. I picked one up and took a bite. The sweet glutinous fragrance spread through my mouth, the taste of autumn and comfort. That bit of displeasure in my heart seemed to dissipate along with it. I looked at the man who had already walked to the bed and was about to lie down and said softly, "Thank you." His back was to me. His figure paused for a moment, his shoulders tensing, but he didn't turn around. Get some sleep. The peaceful days didn't last long. News came from the palace that to celebrate the great victory at the northern border, the Empress Dowager would be hosting a flower viewing banquet in the imperial garden, and all princesses and noble ladies were ordered to attend. I was naturally among those invited. This was my first time attending such a grand palace banquet since marrying into the prince's manor. I knew this wasn't just a simple flower viewing banquet. It was a battlefield without smoke. On the day of the banquet, I dressed up with special care. I didn't choose any overly flashy colors that would make me look like I was trying too hard. Just wore a moon-white palace dress with auspicious clouds embroidered in silver thread as subtle patterns, elegant yet dignified. In my hair, I only placed a single wolf-tooth white jade hairpin that Zhao Yang had given me. When I arrived, quite a few people had already gathered in the imperial garden, a lively scene of beauty and elegance. Orioles and swallows everywhere, plump and slender beauties alike, all dressed in their finest. The moment I appeared, all eyes shot towards me in unison. I could feel the complex meanings in those gazes: jealousy, curiosity, and disdain. Oh my, isn't this our newly appointed princess? Long time no see. You're really looking more and more like a proper princess now. A sharp voice rang out, cutting through the pleasant chatter like a knife. I looked toward the voice. It was Wang Mai, the legitimate daughter of the Minister of Personnel. She had once admired Chen Wei too, had made her interest clear, and had always held a grudge about me marrying into the Prime Minister's residence. Now seeing me fallen to marrying the prince, she naturally had to come over and step on me, to get her revenge for old jealousies. I smiled slightly and curtsied. "Greetings, Sister Wang. I don't deserve to be called your sister," Wang Mai said in a passive-aggressive tone, examining her nails as if bored. You're a princess now with such a noble status. How could we ordinary mortals ever presume to reach up to you? The noble ladies around covered their mouths, letting out soft snickers. I wasn't angry and simply said calmly, "Sister Wang jests. Though I'm a princess, I'm also a subject's wife under His Majesty. Everyone present here is my sister. Between sisters, how can there be talk of reaching up?" My words were neither servile nor overbearing, elevating myself while also giving them face, not rising to the bait. Wang Mai was momentarily at a loss for words, her face alternating between pale and flushed, angry at being outmaneuvered. Just then, a familiar figure appeared not far away. It was Chen Wei. He seemed to have grown much thinner, with a lingering trace of melancholy between his brows, his scholar's robes hanging loose on his frame. By his side followed Lin Xiao, smiling charmingly, looking completely recovered from her supposed heartbreak. Lin Xiao wore a pink silk dress today, looking sweet and charming, every inch the delicate beauty. She intimately held on to Chen Wei's arm, and when she saw me, a flash of smugness and provocation quickly passed through her eyes, there and gone in an instant. How could they be together? My heart lurched despite myself. Sure enough, Wang Mai acted like she discovered a new continent and immediately raised her voice, drawing everyone's attention. "Oh my, isn't that young Master Chen and second Miss Lin? Look how intimate they are. Could it be happy news is on the way?" Everyone's gazes instantly focused on the three of us, me, Chen Wei, and Lin Xiao. This was a carefully planned humiliation, orchestrated to maximum effect. Lin Xiao's face turned slightly red, and she shyly lowered her head, but didn't deny it, letting the implication hang in the air. Chen Wei looked at me with a complicated expression, guilt and struggle in his eyes, but more than that, a kind of helplessness, as if he were the victim here. I became the laughingstock of the entire imperial garden, a pitiful wretch abandoned by her fiancé, only to turn around and marry the living king of hell. Meanwhile, the illegitimate sister who stole her fiancé was now basking in glory, about to marry into a noble family. I could feel those gloating gazes around me, cutting into me like knives, each one finding a tender spot. My hands clenched tightly into fists inside my sleeves, nails digging deep into my palms until I felt the sting of broken skin. Just as I was about to lose the composure on my face, about to either scream or cry or do something that would shame me forever, a deep and magnetic voice sounded from behind me. "This king's consort, since when is it your place to wag your tongues here?" The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. I whipped my head around. Zhao Yang, at some point I hadn't noticed, was already standing behind me. He was still dressed in black robes, standing with his hands clasped behind his back, commanding authority without showing anger. He just stood there, and the chattering noble ladies around instantly fell silent, each one so frightened their faces turned pale. The air in the imperial garden seemed to freeze. He didn't look at those people, walking straight to my side and naturally taking hold of my ice-cold hand. His palm was broad and warm with a thin layer of calluses from years of holding swords, completely enveloping my hand. A warm current flowed from my palm, instantly spreading through my entire body. "Your hands are this cold." He furrowed his brow, covering the back of my hand with his other hand and gently rubbing it, trying to warm them. "Wearing so little, aren't you afraid of catching a chill?" His movements were natural, his tone carrying a hint of reproach, yet it felt more like affectionate scolding, like a husband worrying over his wife. I stared at him blankly, momentarily forgetting to react, forgetting everything but the warmth of his hands. Only then did he raise his eyes, his icy gaze sweeping toward Chen Wei and Lin Xiao across from us, their faces deathly pale. "Young Master Chen." He spoke, his voice cold as ice, each word deliberate. "This king has heard that you're the one who broke off the engagement on the betrothal day for a concubine's daughter, publicly humiliating my consort." Chen Wei's face instantly flushed the color of liver, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word, looking like he might faint. "What audacity!" Zhao Yang let out a cold laugh, not a trace of warmth in that laughter, just pure contempt. "The treasure this prince holds in the palm of his hand, you think you can bully her? You think you're worthy of even looking at her?" His words weren't loud, yet they struck like a thunderclap, exploding in everyone's ears. Held in the palm of his hand, treasure. Not just the others, even I was stunned, my heart skipping several beats. But Zhao Yang seemed not to notice everyone's shocked expressions. He turned his head, looked at me, his eyes filled with a tenderness and doting I had never seen before, never imagined existed in this cold man. He raised his hand and gently brushed aside the stray hair by my temples, his movements unbelievably gentle, as if I were made of glass. "Come, I'll take you somewhere nice." With that, he took my hand and walked past Chen Wei and Lin Qiao as if no one else existed, as if they were insects beneath notice, heading toward the depths of the Imperial Garden. From start to finish, he never spared those two another glance, as if they were nothing but two insignificant ants, not worth his time or attention. I was led by him, walking mechanically, my mind completely blank, unable to process what had just happened. Behind me was a deathly silence and countless gazes of utter astonishment. My face burned hot, not from humiliation, but from an indescribable flutter in my heart, a feeling I couldn't name but that made me feel light and heavy all at once. Zhao Yang took me to a plum blossom grove in the deepest part of the Imperial Garden. It wasn't the season for plum blossoms to bloom, there was only lush greenery on the trees, but it was private and peaceful. He let go of my hand, walked to a plum tree, took out a small wine pouch from his robe, and tilted his head back for a sip. "Just now, were you scared?" He turned to look at me, a faint, barely perceptible smile playing at the corner of his lips. I shook my head, then nodded, confused about my own feelings. He let out a soft laugh, his chest vibrating slightly, the sound warm. "You're quite honest. Your Highness, why did you say that?" I finally asked the question that had been troubling me, that was burning in my chest. A treasure held in the palm of my hand. He raised an eyebrow, walked closer to me, reached out to pinch my chin, forcing me to look up at him, to meet his eyes directly. Shouldn't this prince's consort be a treasure? His gaze was deep, as if there were whirlpools within trying to pull me in, to drown me in their depths. My heartbeat skipped a beat. But we agreed to stay out of each other's way. That was before. He leaned down, his nose almost touching mine, his warm breath spraying on my face, smelling of wine and something else, something warmer. "Now this prince regrets it. Lin Yu, listen to me." His voice was low and solemn, more serious than I'd ever heard it. "From the moment you stepped into the prince's manor, you became Zhao Yang's woman. Regardless of whether there are feelings between us, your face is mine, Zhao Yang's face. Whoever dares to make you unhappy, I'll make them unhappy for the rest of their life." My eyes instantly welled up with tears that I couldn't control. In all my life, this was the first time someone stood so firmly by my side, telling me he would protect me. Not because of whose daughter I was, not because of how magnanimous I was, not because I was useful or convenient, but simply because I was his princess. I sniffled, holding back hard to keep the tears from falling, biting my lip. "Aren't you afraid, Your Highness? Afraid that others will say you've been bewitched by beauty, offending the Prime Minister's residence for a woman? That you're weak, controlled by your wife? Heh!" He scoffed, releasing my chin and gently stroking my cheek instead, his thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped. "A mere Prime Minister's residence isn't even worth this prince's attention. As for beauty," his gaze lingered on my face, his eyes darkening. "This prince's consort is already a beauty beyond compare. So what if I am bewitched by beauty? What man wouldn't be?" My face with a whoosh turned completely red, heat flooding through me. This man, when he doesn't speak, it's fine, he's cold and distant. But once he opens his mouth, every single sentence is absolutely deadly, disarming me completely. Seeing my flustered appearance, he seemed to be in a good mood, the smile at the corner of his lips deepening, genuine pleasure in his eyes. "Let's go. The banquet should be starting soon." He took my hand again. This time, fingers interlocked, intimate and possessive. When we returned to the banquet venue, the atmosphere was still somewhat strange. The way everyone looked at me had changed from the previous sympathy and disdain to jealousy, envy, and a hint of fear. The Empress Dowager sat in the seat of honor. Seeing us walk in holding hands, she was also momentarily stunned, her teacup pausing halfway to her lips. Then a gratified smile appeared on her face, warm and genuine. "Yang, you finally arrived. Come sit down quickly." Our seats were arranged in the spot closest to the Empress Dowager, a place of high honor. At the banquet, Wine cups clinked and toasts were exchanged. People kept coming over to toast Zhao Yang, and in their words, they were all very respectful towards me, the princess. Your Highness is fortunate. The princess is lovely. We should all congratulate His Highness. I sat beside Zhao Yang, watching him block glass after glass of wine for me, watching him pick up dishes I liked for me, watching him occasionally turn his head and ask in a low voice if I was cold or if I needed anything. In a daze, I felt like I was dreaming, like I'd wake up any moment and find myself back in my room at my father's house, still engaged to Chen Wei, still trapped in that life. This banquet that was originally set up to humiliate me ultimately became a stage for Zhao Yang to clear my name. I became the most eye-catching focus of the entire venue, while Chen Wei and Lin Qiao became the most awkward background decorations. They sat in the corner, their faces looking worse than each other. Lin Qiao's carefully made-up face now looked pale and ridiculous, her beauty meaningless. I saw her biting her lip with unwillingness, her eyes looking at me filled with resentment and venom, pure hatred that she didn't even try to hide. I ignored her. I just turned my head to look at the man beside me. He noticed my gaze and turned to look at me too, his sharp brows slightly raised as if asking me what's wrong. I shook my head, picked up the wine pot on the table and poured him a glass of wine with careful hands. Your Highness, a toast to you. He looked at me, and the frost in his eyes seemed to melt a little, softening at the edges. He raised his wine cup and gently clinked it with mine, the sound musical. Call me by my name. From now on, when no one's around, call me Zhao Yang. My heart started racing wildly again, pounding so hard I thought he might hear it. Zhao Yang. I called out softly, testing the name on my tongue. He curled up the corner of his lips in satisfaction and drained his cup in one gulp, his throat working. That day, the sunlight in the imperial garden was exceptionally bright. After the flower viewing banquet, my status among the noble ladies of the capital underwent an earth-shattering change. Those who used to ignore me or even mock me with sarcasm now have to respectfully address me as princess, bowing deeply. When they see me, in their eyes, there's no longer any contempt, only unconcealed envy and a touch of fear. After all, I'm the only one who could make that cold-faced king of hell, Prince Zhao Yang, publicly defend me and even say things like a treasure held in the palm of my hand. In contrast, Lin Qiao's situation became incredibly awkward. She originally wanted to use Chen Wei to step on me and climb her way up, to take my place in society. But unexpectedly, not only was I not trampled down, Zhao Yang lifted me even higher, beyond her reach. Her ambiguous relationship with Chen Wei also became the laughingstock of the capital. Nobody said it openly to her face, that would be too cruel. But everyone was gossiping in private, saying she was just a concubine's daughter who shamelessly tried to steal her legitimate sister's fiancé, only to end up with nothing but shame. The Prime Minister's wife originally had some fondness for her, thinking she was meek and easy to control, useful. But after the Imperial Garden incident, she saw the situation clearly. Prince Zhao Yang was someone she couldn't afford to offend, and it really wasn't worth offending the princess for a lowly concubine's daughter who couldn't even be presented in public without causing embarrassment. So her attitude toward Lin Qiao also cooled down dramatically. Chen Wei was caught in the middle, torn between both sides. He felt guilty toward me, yet couldn't let go of Lin Qiao's tenderness, or perhaps just couldn't let go of his own pride, his whole being trapped in painful conflict. All of this was told to me by Su Wen when she visited. After hearing it, I just smiled faintly, sipping my tea. Pitiful people must have something hateful about them. They brought this upon themselves through their own choices. My life now is quite pleasant. Zhao Yang seemed to have truly taken doting on his wife as a career to manage, putting actual effort into it. He no longer slept on the couch, but openly and rightfully slept in the same bed with me. Although it was still just purely sleeping under the covers, feeling the warm breath and steady heartbeat beside me every night, I always felt exceptionally at ease, safe in a way I'd never felt before. He remembered my preferences. Knowing I liked sweets, he would bring me pastries from the imperial kitchen every few days, always something different. Knowing I was sensitive to cold, he ordered people to heat the floor in my room in advance, making sure it was warm before I retired. On my vanity table, before I knew it, it had been piled with all sorts of rare treasures he had collected. Pearls from the East Sea, gemstones from the western regions, jade from the southern border, each one was worth a fortune, could buy a house or feed a family for years. I knew he was using this way to make up for the grievances I had suffered at the Chen family. That East Sea pearl hairpin that Lin Xiao had taken a fancy to, compared to these, was simply not worth mentioning, was trash in comparison. The servants in the manor all saw this too. They became increasingly respectful toward me, some even affectionate. The entire manor knew that I was the prince's most treasured darling, and treating me well meant staying in the prince's good graces. My heart too was falling bit by bit under Zhao Yang's subtle yet gentle offensive. I began to look forward to his return every night, listening for his footsteps. I prepared hot tea and late-night snacks for him, learning his preferences. When he handled official business, I would quietly stay by his side, grinding ink for him, sometimes reading over his shoulder. The way we got along became more and more like a real married couple, until one day, urgent news came from the border. The northern barbarians had invaded again, and beacon fires rose across the frontier, smoke signals visible for miles. The emperor issued a decree ordering Prince Zhao Yang to lead the expedition immediately, to defend the realm. When the news arrived, I was tidying up his study for him, organizing papers. He walked in, looked at me, and remained silent for a long time, just watching. "I have to go." He finally spoke, his voice somewhat heavy, reluctant. The book in my hands fell to the ground with a thud, pages scattering. I had known all along that he couldn't stay in the capital forever. He was the northern garrison prince, his battlefield was in the northern border. But when this day actually came, I still felt like something had ruthlessly wrenched my heart, leaving me suffocated with panic. "When are you leaving?" I squatted down to pick up the book, not daring to look into his eyes, afraid of what I might see or what he might see in mine. "Tomorrow at dawn." So soon. My nose stung and tears nearly fell despite my best efforts. He walked up to me, squatted down, and met my eyes at the same level, refusing to let me hide. "Wait for me to come back." He reached out and gently wiped the moisture from the corners of my eyes, his touch impossibly tender. "Be good at home. Take care of yourself. Don't let anyone bully you again. If they try, use my name." I nodded, choking back tears, not trusting my voice. "I've arranged everything in the manor. The guards have been doubled. No one will dare to give you trouble. And this." He took out a black iron token from his chest and pressed it into my hand. "This is my royal token. Seeing this token is like seeing me in person. If there's anything you can't handle, take it and find Commander Xiao of the Imperial Guard. He's my man, loyal to the death." I held that cold, heavy token and finally couldn't hold back anymore. Tears fell in big drops, splashing on the token, on our joined hands. He sighed and pulled me into his embrace, wrapping me in his warmth. His embrace was warm and strong, carrying a faint scent of gunpowder and cold iron, the smell of a soldier. "Don't cry," he whispered in my ear, his breath tickling. "This king can't stand seeing a woman cry. Especially not you." Despite saying that, his arms around me tightened even more, crushing me to his chest. That night, he didn't leave my side. We slept in each other's arms, wrapped around each other. In the night, half asleep, I felt a burning kiss land on my forehead, soft and lingering. Then I heard him say in an extremely soft voice by my ear, so soft I almost thought I dreamed it, "Lin Yu, wait for me to come back and marry you properly. Like you deserve." The next day, before dawn even broke, he left. I stood at the entrance of the manor wrapped in a cloak, watching his armored figure on horseback disappear at the end of the long street, becoming smaller and smaller until I couldn't see him anymore. The cold wind blew past, sweeping up the fallen leaves on the ground, and I shivered. I gripped the black iron token in my hand tightly and silently said in my heart, "Zhao Yang, I'll wait for you to come back. I'll wait as long as it takes." After Zhao Yang left, the manor suddenly seemed to become deserted, too big and too quiet. Every day I handled the affairs of the manor, checked the account books, managed the servants, approved expenses, settled disputes, and the days passed uneventfully. It's just that every late night, lying on that empty big bed, I always feel like there's a hollow space in my heart too, an ache that won't fade. I would habitually reach over to the side, only to touch cold brocade blankets. So it turns out, without realizing it, I had already gotten used to that man's presence, needed it even. News from the border came intermittently, brought by exhausted messengers. Sometimes it was victory reports, saying the prince had won another battle and recaptured several cities, killed hundreds of enemies. Sometimes it was news of a stalemate, saying the northern barbarians had sent reinforcements and the fighting was brutal, casualties mounting. Every time I heard bad news, my heart would clench into a knot, fear gripping me. I started going to temples frequently to burn incense, asking for nothing else, only for his safety. Please, I would pray, bring him home. In the capital, because of Zhao Yang's departure, some restless intentions began stirring again like rats emerging from holes. The first one to come knocking was Chen Wei. He seemed to have heard the news of Zhao Yang's expedition and deliberately blocked my way back to the manor from the temple one afternoon, stepping out from an alley. You. He stopped my carriage, his face showing a hint of haggardness and anticipation, hope in his bloodshot eyes. I sat inside the carriage, not even bothering to lift the curtain, keeping the barrier between us. Young Master Chen, what is it? You, can we talk? Just for a moment. Please. I don't think there's anything left for us to talk about. My voice was cold as winter. No, there is. He said urgently, desperately. I know I was wrong. I was blinded by infatuation back then, that's why I was deceived by that Lin Qiao. I see her clearly now. She's not some weak and innocent little flower at all. She's a cunning and vicious woman. She's been using me. Oh. I raised an eyebrow, curious despite myself. What did she do now? Chen Wei's voice was filled with regret and anger, bitter. In front of me, she always puts on a gentle and considerate act. But behind my back, she's been flirting with several wealthy young masters, anyone who might advance her position. A few days ago, I saw with my own eyes that she accepted a jade pendant from the son of the Vice Minister of War. She doesn't love me at all. What she loves is only the Prime Minister's mansion's power, my position. Hearing this, I only felt it was ironic, almost laughable. Who was it that said Lin Qiao was delicate and adorable back then? Who was it that didn't hesitate to break off our engagement and humiliate me for her sake? Now that he's found out she's not a white lotus, he comes running to me to whine and seek comfort, expecting sympathy. Nothing in this world comes that cheap. Young Master Chen, this is a matter between you and her. It has nothing to do with me. I coldly cut him off. Since you chose her back then, whatever kind of person she is, you should bear it. You made your bed. Coming to me now to tell me all this, are you expecting me to pity you? Are you expecting me to take you back? That's not what I meant. My carriage is returning to the manor. Please step aside. He threw himself in front of my carriage, actually threw himself, his voice choked with sobs. Can you give me one more chance? Just one. I know Zhao Yang is just using you. He doesn't love you at all. A man like him only has battlefields and slaughter in his heart. You won't be happy following him. Come back to me. I swear I'll treat you well from now on. We'll be just like before. Better than before. Shut up. I yanked open the carriage curtain and shouted harshly, my voice ringing out. Listen to me clearly. I stared at his pathetic and laughable face, enunciating every word with venom. Whether the prince loves me or not, whether I'm happy or not, that's my own business. It's not your place to comment. I know what kind of person he is better than you ever could. No matter how cold he seems, his heart is warm. No matter how clueless he is about romance, he knows to protect his woman, to stand by her. Unlike you, spouting righteousness and morality, but full of hypocrisy and depravity inside, rotten to the core. You could abandon your childhood sweetheart fiancé for a scheming woman you barely knew. What right do you have to talk about happiness here? What right do you have to judge my marriage? Let me tell you, even if Zhao Yang never returns to the capital for the rest of his life, I, Lin Yu, will belong to the prince's household in life and be a ghost of the prince's household in death. In this lifetime, I will never look back at you again. You don't deserve it. You never did. After I finished speaking, I lowered the carriage curtain with a snap and said coldly to the driver, go. If he won't move, run him over. I mean it. The driver received the order and raised his whip with a crack. Chen Wei was probably scared by my decisiveness, staggering back several steps, watching helplessly as my carriage sped away from him in a cloud of dust. I leaned against the carriage wall, trembling all over, not from anger, but from disgust and something else, something like freedom. I closed my eyes, but what surfaced in my mind was Zhao Yang's cold, stern face. Zhao Yang, please come back soon. I think I miss you a little. More than a little. After driving Chen Wei away, I thought I could have a few days of peace, time to breathe. Little did I expect, bigger trouble was still waiting ahead, worse than before. Lin Xiao somehow found out about my meeting with Chen Wei, probably from servants she'd bribed. She actually ran to the entrance of the prince's residence and made a scene, crying, throwing tantrums, threatening to hang herself, to end her life right there. Sister, why do you have to treat me like this? You've already married the prince, so why do you still have to pester brother Wei? I know you still hate me deep down, but you can't destroy our relationship just because you hate me. Brother Wei won't even talk to me now, and it's all because of you. It's all your fault, you vixen, you witch. She sat beneath the stone lion at the prince's residence entrance, crying herself hoarse, attracting a crowd of onlookers who gathered like flies. In an instant, rumors spread everywhere like wildfire, saying things like the princess couldn't stand the loneliness and rekindled her old flame with her former fiancé while the prince was away at war, risking his life. Saying things like the legitimate and illegitimate sisters of the minister's residence were fighting jealously over a man, making a scene known to everyone, shameless. Our Lin families and the prince's residence's face were completely lost because of her alone. Father and mother were so furious they fell ill and took to bed, calling for doctors. My elder brother, Lin Hao, also came to the prince's residence, but not to reproach Lin Xiao, of course not. But rather to persuade me, to blame me again. You, just go out and give in to her. She's just having a hard time thinking things through. She's emotional. If you yield to her a bit, won't this whole thing blow over? Making such a big fuss isn't good for anyone. Think of the family reputation. I looked at him, feeling a chill that pierced to my bones, spreading through my body. Elder brother, even now you still think this is my fault. That's not what I meant. I just think Xiao is young and doesn't know better. She's impulsive. She doesn't know better, so I should give in to her? She throws mud on my name and I should just endure it. Just because she's born of a concubine, just because she grew up in the countryside, just because she cries prettily, everything wrong she does deserves to be forgiven. Is that how it works? I stood up, walked over to him, and looked at him coldly, letting him see the contempt in my eyes. Lin Hao, I used to respect you because you're my elder brother, because I loved you. But now you disgust me. You're not my brother anymore. I'm telling you one last time, in this matter, I did nothing wrong. I won't go out, and I certainly won't apologize. If she wants to make a scene, let her. I'd like to see just what kind of tricks she can pull, how far she'll go. I drove Lin Hao out of the prince's residence, ordering the servants to bar the gates behind him. Then gave orders to keep the gates tightly shut and see no one, no matter who came calling. The rumors outside grew uglier and uglier, more vicious. Some even said that when the prince returned, the first thing he would do was divorce me, this princess who failed to uphold womanly virtue, this shameless woman who couldn't wait for her husband. The servants in the residence also began to grow restless and uneasy, whispering in corners. Mai Ling was so anxious she kept shedding tears, wringing her hands. Miss, what are we going to do? If she keeps making trouble like this, your reputation will be completely ruined. No one will believe your innocence. I sat by the window, toying with the black iron token Zhao Yang had left me, my gaze calm as still water. Don't rush. I reassured her, patting her hand. Let the situation develop a little longer. Let her dig her own grave. Lin Xiao had been making a scene at the manor gates for 3 days straight, barely sleeping. By the 3rd day, she probably figured just crying wasn't working, people were getting bored of the spectacle. So she started playing the hunger strike card, refusing food and water. This time things completely blew up. Even the Empress Dowager in the palace was alarmed, hearing the gossip from her ladies. The Empress Dowager sent someone to summon me to the palace, her words carrying quite a reproachful tone, disappointed. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. The time had come. I changed into plain clothes, simple and modest, brought my Ling with me, and for the first time took the initiative to walk out of the manor gates. At the entrance, onlookers still crowded around to watch the spectacle, dozens of people. Lin Qiao lay on a hastily set-up straw mat, her face pale, her lips cracked and bleeding, looking ever so pitiful, a perfect picture of suffering. Seeing me come out, she struggled to sit up, reaching out her hand like a beggar, pointing at me weakly. "Sister, you finally came out. You finally have a conscience." I ignored her completely and walked to stand before the gathered crowd. I surveyed the crowd and spoke loudly, projecting my voice. "Dear neighbors and elders, I know that these past few days, a little family matter between us sisters has disturbed everyone and made us a laughingstock. I apologize for that. This younger sister of mine was lost and wandered outside since childhood and suffered quite a lot, endured hardships we can't imagine. Now that she's returned to the capital and sees that I, her elder sister, have everything, she feels a bit resentful and has done some outrageous things. I can understand that. Jealousy is human nature. She wanted my pearl hairpin, I didn't give it to her. She got angry. She fancies my former fiancé, and now she's made it known to everyone. I've accepted that too. I've been patient. But, I changed my tone abruptly, my voice suddenly rising, echoing off the walls. She should never, ever have, not while my husband is fighting for our country, shedding blood in battle, risking his life for all of us, used such despicable methods at the gates of the prince's manor to slander me, the princess, to shake the morale of our 300,000 troops in the northern frontier. To undermine the man protecting this nation. My words rang out resoundingly, leaving everyone present stunned into silence. I raised the black iron token in my hand and declared loudly, letting everyone see it. Before the prince departed, he entrusted this token to me to protect this household in his stead, to protect the honor of the prince's manor, to uphold his name. Now someone publicly besmirches my reputation and insults our prince's manor. If I continue to endure this, how can I face the prince who is risking his life and shedding blood on the front lines? How can I face this token that represents the soul of our army? How can I face the soldiers dying for us? Lin Qiao. I spun around abruptly, pointing at the woman who was already stunned, her mouth hanging open. You spread rumors and stir up trouble, slander the princess, and undermine military morale. According to the laws of our great dynasty, how should you be dealt with? Without waiting for her to answer, I shouted harshly, my voice like thunder. Guards, seize this woman who spreads wicked rumors to deceive the masses. Slap her face 30 times. Let this serve as a warning to others. Let everyone see what happens to those who undermine our defenders. Behind me, the guards of the prince's manor responded immediately, pouncing on her like wolves and tigers, efficient and brutal. Lin Qiao screamed in terror, the sound piercing. How dare you? I'm the second miss of the minister's manor. You can't hit me. I have rights. The minister's manor. I sneered coldly, my voice dripping with contempt. At the gates of my prince's manor, let alone a concubine-born second young miss like you, even if the minister himself came and dared to cause trouble here, I would beat him all the same. No one is above the law, above loyalty. Beat her hard. Don't hold back. Slap, slap, slap. The crisp sound of slapping echoed throughout the long street, rhythmic and harsh. Lin Qiao's cries and pleas for mercy soon turned into whimpers, then into silence. The surrounding commoners fell completely silent, shocked. Everyone was stunned by my thunderous methods. They probably never imagined that the minister's legitimate daughter, rumored to be gentle and virtuous, had such a tough and ruthless side, such steel in her spine. After 30 slaps, Lin Qiao had already swollen like a pig's head, unrecognizable, blood flowing from the corner of her mouth, unable to even speak anymore, just making small animal sounds. I walked up to her, looking down at her from above, my voice cold as ice, pitiless. Lin Qiao, this is the last lesson I'm giving you. From now on, if you ever dare to set foot near the manor again or say a single bad word about me outside, it won't be as simple as slapping your face. I will make you know what it truly means to wish you were dead. I promise you that. After speaking, I no longer looked at her pathetic form, turned around, and cupped my fists toward the surrounding commoners, bowing with respect. Today's incident has made a spectacle for everyone, and I apologize. My husband, the prince, is currently at the northern border, fighting for our great dynasty, fighting for the peace of all of us, so we can sleep safely at night. I, Lin Yu, earnestly ask everyone here not to believe rumors anymore, and let our hero bleed on the front lines without also having to shed tears back home. Our soldiers deserve better. I bowed deeply, holding the position. The surrounding commoners fell silent for a moment, then erupted into thunderous cheers that shook the street. The princess is right. We can't let our heroes be disheartened. Support the princess. Severely punish the rumor mongers. Protect our prince. Public opinion reversed in an instant, swift and complete. Looking at the impassioned crowd before me, looking at Lin Xiao on the ground like a dying dog, there was no satisfaction in my heart, only an icy calm. You all forced me into this. I didn't want to be the villain, but to protect the home Zhao Yang and I share, to protect his reputation, I fear nothing. What followed went even smoother than I had imagined, like pieces falling into place. Lin Xiao was beaten severely by my people and carried back to the minister's residence on a stretcher, barely conscious. Father flew into a rage when he heard what happened, but there was nothing he could do to me, nothing at all. After all, I was now the princess, and I held the prince's command token. I had both reason and power on my side, had acted within my rights. He could only vent all his fury on Lin Xiao, finally seeing her for what she was. I heard Lin Xiao was punished to kneel in the ancestral hall for days, confined for half a year, and completely lost father's favor, was treated like a ghost in the house. As for my elder brother, Lin Hao, after witnessing my methods and the commoner's reaction with his own eyes, he finally realized what kind of person his weak and kind good little sister really was, saw through her masks. He was too ashamed to face me again and only had someone deliver an apology letter, couldn't even come himself. I read the letter and casually tossed it into the fire pit, watching it burn to ash. Some cracks, once formed, can never be mended. Some things can't be forgiven. Chen Wei's side has also completely quieted down, silent as a tomb. The Prime Minister was probably afraid I'd take my anger out on him, so he strictly forbade Chen Wei from bothering me again, essentially put him under house arrest. The rumors and gossip about me in the capital vanished without a trace overnight, replaced by new stories. In their place came praise and admiration for me, flattery even. They said the princess was righteous and sensible, brave and resourceful, very much like her husband, a true match for the prince. I became the new role model for the noble ladies of the capital, held up as an example. I used the toughest means to defend my dignity and Zhao Yang's honor, to protect what was ours. But in the quiet of the night, I would also feel lingering fear, would shake and cry. I was afraid that when Zhao Yang returned, he would think I was too ruthless, not the kind of woman he adored in his heart, would be disgusted by what I'd become. Days passed one by one, and the war in the northern border also entered a critical phase. Finally, on a snowy winter day, the capital received the ultimate good news from the northern border, brought by riders who had nearly killed their horses. Prince Zhao Yang, leading an army of 300,000, defeated the superior enemy forces in a brilliant campaign, crushed the main force of the northern barbarians, slew their leader in single combat, reclaimed lost territories in one fell swoop, and completely pacified the threat from the north. Victory, total victory. When the news arrived, the whole nation rejoiced, celebrations everywhere. The emperor was greatly pleased and issued an edict, ordering Prince Zhao Yang to return to the capital immediately with his forces. He wanted to personally welcome him back and reward him according to his merits, shower him with honors. I knew my man was coming back. That day, I put on the bright red wedding dress I wore when we got married, the same one, carefully preserved, and stood at the entrance of the manor waiting for him. From dawn until dusk, not moving, barely breathing. At the end of the long street, that familiar black banner finally appeared, visible through the falling snow. Immediately after came a dense, overwhelming flood of ironclad soldiers, thousands of them. At the head of them was the man I had been thinking of day and night, dreaming of. He was still riding that black steed, clad in dark armor covered in dents and scratches. Only his face had grown thinner and his gaze had become even sharper, harder, like a blade. He saw me immediately. 100 meters away from the prince's residence, he dismounted in one fluid motion, tossed the reins to his deputy, and strode toward me alone, leaving his army behind. Behind him were thousands of soldiers and horses and snow filling the sky, a scene from a painting. But in his eyes there was only me. I could see it, feel it. He walked up to me and stopped. We stood 3 steps apart, quietly gazing at each other, drinking each other in. 1,000 words all melted into the longing and affection in our eyes. "I'm back." He spoke, his voice hoarse from shouting orders and breathing cold air, yet carrying a hint of barely perceptible tenderness, just for me. "Welcome home." I smiled, but tears fell uncontrollably, hot on my cold cheeks. He reached out, wanting to wipe away my tears, but when he saw the thin calluses weathered by hardship and the new scars on his hands, blood still under his nails, he paused. In the end, he just lightly touched my cheek with his fingertips, so gentle. "You've gotten thinner." "So have you." We smiled at each other as if there was only each other left in this world. Just then, an untimely voice abruptly rang out, shrill and desperate. Your Highness, you must seek justice for me." I turned around and saw Lin Qiao rushing out from somewhere, throwing herself to her knees before Zhao Yang with a thud that must have hurt. She had dressed up specially today, wearing all white like a mourner, with pitiful-looking makeup on her face, artfully applied. It's just that the face I had slapped swollen hadn't fully gone down yet, still puffy and discolored, making her look somewhat ridiculous, like a bruised fruit. "Your Highness, during the days you were away, sister, she's been too much of a bully, an absolute tyrant," she cried, pointing at me with a shaking finger. Not only has she kept ties with her former fiancé, meeting him in secret, but just because I gave her a few words of advice, tried to guide her, she viciously attacked me. Look at my face, it was beaten by her, disfigured. "You must seek justice for me. Please, Your Highness." She performed with such emotion as if she had suffered the greatest injustice in the world, deserved an award for her acting. The air around us instantly froze, tension thick. Everyone's gaze focused on Zhao Yang, waiting. They all wanted to see how this just triumphant prince would deal with his fierce and jealous princess, whether he would choose justice or his wife. I didn't speak, just calmly looked at Zhao Yang, meeting his eyes. I believed in him with everything I had. Zhao Yang looked down condescendingly at Lin Qiao kneeling on the ground, his brows furrowing tightly, displeasure clear. He didn't lash out immediately, but turned his head and looked at me, searching my face. "Is what she said true?" I nodded without hesitation. "It's true. I did hit her. I won't lie to you." A hint of smugness flashed in Lin Qiao's eyes, thinking she'd won, that I'd just confessed. Zhao Yang's brows furrowed even deeper, a storm brewing. He was silent for a moment that felt like eternity. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, under the eyes of his entire army, he slowly drew the sword at his waist. It was a treasured sword that had drunk the blood of countless enemies, its blade glinting with a cold, chilling light in the wind and snow, stained and deadly. Lin Qiao screamed in fright, thinking Zhao Yang was going to kill her, covering her head. However, Zhao Yang didn't even glance at her, didn't acknowledge her existence. He walked up to me and personally placed that precious sword, the symbol of supreme power and conquest, the blade that had won wars, into my hands. Then he knelt on one knee before me, right there in the snow, lowering that proud head of his that had never bowed to anyone, not emperor nor enemy. "My woman, Zhao Yang's woman, can hit whoever she wants, kill whoever she wants. Next time you encounter trash like this, don't dirty your hands by dealing with them yourself. Use this." He pointed at the sword in my hands, at his own weapon. "Just cut them down directly. Even if the sky falls, I'll hold it up for you." His voice echoed throughout the long street, carrying on the wind. The entire world fell into dead silence, even the snow seemed to pause. Everyone was completely stunned by the scene before them, couldn't process it. The prince, known for his decisive ruthlessness and unrivaled power over the court, was now willingly bowing in submission for his princess, offering her his sword. I held that heavy sword, looking at the man kneeling on one knee before me, and tears instantly blurred my vision, falling on the blade. I finally understood what he meant that night when he said, "Wait for me to come back and marry you properly." He wasn't just going to give me a wedding. He was going to give me a future where I could act recklessly and lawlessly as I pleased, where I was protected, where I was safe. He was going to use everything he had to love me, protect me, and spoil me, to make me untouchable. I dropped the sword, threw myself into his arms, and held him tightly, not caring who was watching. Zhao Yang, Zhao Yang. I sobbed uncontrollably, all the fear and loneliness pouring out. He held me gently despite his armor, patting my back, solid and warm. I'm here. I'm home. In the wind and snow, we held each other tightly, surrounded by an army, surrounded by witnesses. I knew from this moment on, my life had truly begun. My name is Lin Yu, the princess of the Northern Garrison Prince. The one treasured in the palm of the most powerful man in the world. If this story touched your heart, if Lin Yu's journey resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to Lotus Tale Studios for more captivating tales of love, revenge, and resilience. Hit that like button and let me know in the comments which part of this story affected you most. Was it when she chose herself? When he defended her? Share your thoughts with me. Until next time, may you always find the courage to choose yourself, to demand respect, and to never settle for less than you deserve. See you in the next story.